Imagine walking into a classroom on the first day of school. Before you even say a word, people already expect something from you. The teacher smiles and says, "I'm sure you do great in this class." A student next to you whispers, "Good, we've got someone smart in our group." At first, it feels kind of nice. Like, okay, people believe in you. But then the assignments start getting harder. You don't understand something right away. You think about raising your hand, but you hesitate. Because now, it's not just a question. It feels like if you ask for help, you're proving everyone wrong. So you stay quiet. You go home and spend hours trying to figure it out all on your own. You start falling behind, but no one notices because your grades are still good enough. People keep saying things like, "I wish I was as smart as you," or "All Asian people are smart." But the truth is, you are trying a lot, probably more than anyone realizes. And over time, it starts to feel less like a compliment and more like a role you're forced to play. You stop talking about your struggles. You stop asking for help. You start pretending everything is fine because that's what people expect. And eventually, you're not trying to succeed anymore. You're trying not to disappoint an image that was never really you in the first place. Hi everyone, welcome back to TT's Tea, episode 14. For today's tea, I want to talk about something that's often seen as positive, but actually causes a lot of harm. And that is the model minority myth. You've probably heard things like Asians are all smart or they're all successful. And at first, that might sound like a compliment, but honestly, it's not. It's more of a backhanded stereotype. And the real question is, what happens when a stereotype like that creates pressure and ends up hiding real struggles? That's what we're getting into today. So first, what even is the model minority myth? Basically, it's the idea that all Asian Americans are successful, hardworking, and especially good at things like school and careers. According to research from the Pew Research Center, this stereotype has been around for decades and still influences how Asian Americans are viewed today. It actually became more popular in the 1960s, when Asian Americans were used as an example of a successful minority. But the thing is, the idea is really misleading. One of the biggest problems with this myth is that it completely ignores how diverse Asian communities actually are. A source from Rice University explains that the model minority myth groups millions of people together, even though they all have very different backgrounds, cultures, and experiences. And because of this, it can hide real inequalities. Not every Asian American is financially stable or academically successful, but the stereotype makes it seem like they all are. And when people assume everything is fine, it becomes an easier way to overlook people who actually need support. Another major effect of this myth is academic pressure. According to Talkspace, many Asian American students feel intense pressure to succeed because they're expected to live up to this perfect student image. And it's not just pressure from the teachers or parents. It can become internal too. An article from Harvard Business Review explains that over time, people start to internalize these expectations. So even if no one directly telling them to be perfect, they still feel like they have to meet those standards. And that kind of pressure can lead to stress, anxiety, and especially burnout. And this also connects really closely to mental health. The Talkspace article points out that Asian Americans are less likely to seek mental health support, partly because of the expectation to always appear successful and put together. If everyone around you assumes you're doing fine, it can feel really hard to admit that you're actually not. And at the same time, the Harvard Business Review article explains that this stereotype can make mental health struggles less visible because they don't fit the image people expect. So a lot of people just end up staying silent, even when they really need help. And this is where it really becomes real. I asked people to share their experiences, and I also found a powerful interview from the Pew Research Center that really stood out to me. So one woman described how the stereotype affects how people see her and others. She said that the model minority myth makes Asians and South Asians seem like a monolith. Like everyone assumes the same things about you, from your family's job to your income and even your personal life. She talked about how people automatically expect you to be high performing and smart, and how that creates a lot of pressure, and she even described herself as a black sheep because she didn't follow the traditional path people expected, like becoming a doctor or going into a certain profession. She also pointed out something really important, that many people within the Asian community actually come from underrepresented or lower income backgrounds. But the stereotype hides that reality. Because of that, the expectations placed on them can be really overwhelming and honestly unfair. And she ends up by calling the myth very harmful and poisonous, especially for people who experiences doesn't match with that stereotype. Now, I also want to include a couple personal stories that were shared to me. So one person said, everyone assumed I was good at school, but when I started struggling, I felt that I couldn't tell anyone. I felt like I had to keep pretending everything was fine, even when it wasn't. I didn't want to disappoint people, so I just stayed quiet and tried to deal with it on my own. When it came to exams, I always heard others saying, oh, I'm sure she'll do good unlike us. I mean, she's Asian. When really, it wasn't like that at all. Another shared, my family thought I was doing fine because my grades looked good, but I was actually really overwhelmed. I felt like no one could see how stressed I really was, and I didn't feel comfortable opening up about it. Honestly, these stories really show how the stereotype doesn't just affect how people are seen. It also affects how they feel and how they deal with their struggles. So, even though the model minority myth sounds positive, it's actually harmful in a lot of ways. It creates pressure to meet unrealistic expectations, it hides real struggles and inequalities, and it reduces people to a single stereotype instead of recognizing them as individuals. And across all the research that I've done, one thing is really clear. Stereotypes, even the ones that seem positive, still limit people and prevent us from seeing the full picture. At the end of the day, no group is the same. The model minority myth doesn't reflect reality, it hides it. And the more we talk about it and question it, the more we can start to understand people's experiences more and honestly create a space for those experiences to actually be heard. And to me, that's how real change actually starts. Now, that's all the tea for the day. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye!